Okay.
Okay, welcome everybody. Faye, you coming?
She keeps joining.
So we wanted to just start off. September was an awesome month. The way we ended, just wanted to give some recognition. We had some people that ranked up. So just wanted to say congratulations and good job to Miss Terry for hitting the rank of star. So we're excited to see what October will bring. As far as being in the running now, you can head for executive in 3, which is pretty exciting. As well as the start of this month, today, Young Living actually is starting in the running for that cruise to Hawaii. So that free trip to Hawaii is now on the table. And we've actually met a few people that have won that, and even in the game plan, Sarah Harnish, she actually won that as an executive. So that'd be awesome if somebody, got to win that free trip to Hawaii, all expenses, all inclusive.
Okay, I'm here. Hey, Brenda.
Am I the only one?
Yeah, you're joining us tonight. There we go. All right, I'm sorry. I'm trying to play multiple roles. But we address everyone because the call is also recorded, so we have people that aren't able to get on the call when it's live, and that way they can go back and watch it later. So, but we want to thank you for joining us tonight. All righty. So, for those who are, you already talked about recognitions.
Yes.
I wanted to say congratulations to Terry as well. She is rocking it down in one of the Carolinas, North Carolina. There we go. We got it. So she's absolutely rocking it out. We're continuing talking about the Game Plan series because the Game Plan series really is the backbone of how you can do a Young Living business. And last week's call, we had touched on pretty much like what is the basics for starting. How do you start by having a successful class, like what's necessary to have a successful class. And then we talked about some of the pitfalls, some of the things to avoid, things that we sometimes get in the bad habits of doing just naturally. So I encourage you, if you haven't watched that call, go back and listen to that. I did have some technical difficulties last week, so it's more of a podcast, but it's something that you could sit down and listen to, or you can multitask and listen to at the same time. But we're going to continue on this week because in the Game Plan Bootcamp that we're currently doing, chapters 5 and 6 were very, very interesting as well. Chapter 5 is entitled Overcoming Excuses and Finding Your Niche. And then chapter 6 goes in a little bit about the back office that you have available to you as a Young Living distributor. And so we'll touch on some of those things as well because a lot of people don't know how to navigate their back office to find the information that they may need. So let's start with chapter 5. As I talked about before, it's called Overcoming Excuses and Find Your Niche. I think that's probably one of the biggest holdups sometimes when an individual gets started in this business because we have all of these insecurities, things that you may not necessarily feel comfortable with doing. And that's why when we talked about in chapters 1 and 2, it was so important for you to develop your why and your reason for even wanting to do or do anything with the business in the first place. Because if your why is not big enough, then typically you're not going to be able to overcome a lot of the challenges that you may have or some of the excuses. So Sarah actually details some of the excuses that hold us back from being successful in a Young Living business. And some of those include things as I don't know any people, I don't live in the right area, I'm not famous or have a huge circle of influence, I don't have the time, I don't have the money to start a business, I can't stand in front of people, or what about I have children and no babysitter, I work too many hours, or I don't want anyone in my house, and I don't want to sell stuff. So no doubt, I mean, these are ones that even Dana and I have heard before, probably have said at some point before, but there is a way to overcome those, and we're going to give you some of the tools to do that. So if you've ever said any of those to yourself, rest assured, we're going to try to help as best as possible. So one of the first ones that she touched on, because it's kind of a big one, is location. I know that there are certain people that listen to this call or are on our team that maybe they don't stay in the most populated area where there's a lot of people that they can come into contact with, or they don't stay very close to their friends and family to be able to get them to a class in a centralized location. But I say don't allow that to be a barrier, just because in this day and age, there's so many ways to share. I mean, particularly the internet is such a huge resource, and social media now, that location is really not as much of a problem as it used to be. I do remember years ago when I first got started in network marketing business, I remember traveling like 3 to 4 hours to get to a class or a business meeting because it was that important. I hated that. And so I say that to say, you know, usually most of our family and friends stay probably 15, 20 minutes away. Right? So if you stay in a rural area, don't feel discouraged, because you can still use things such as social media. Or I know that we have a few groups that are on Facebook that are not necessarily just in the Metro Detroit area. So let's say you have someone that stays outside of that quite a ways, then there's always groups that we can tap into so that you could send people to classes, they could get the education, and then you just tell them to follow up with you, you know, let them know how they enjoy the class.
And then even I was thinking with October 14th, that Saturday will be our fall rally. So that's another thing that again is happening, and I believe this is the first rally that they're going international. So before it was just strictly United States and Canada, but now this is going to be live streamed internationally as well. And again, if you have people that are in other locations, well, maybe they can't come to our local rally, but you can go online, youngliving.com, and under events, you can look up rallies by state, and you can find the closest rally to their location, and they can come and get all of the same information and that same energy.
And then the other half of it, because one of the excuses that we talk about is sometimes we don't want individuals in our home. We may not feel comfortable just having anyone, you know, coming in and out. And that's fine. There are some people that do feel comfortable having classes in their home and some that do not. But there is a way to work around it. If you're one of those individuals, you can find a free location to host a class that's within 20 minutes of your house. So some of the examples that they give are libraries, fire halls, community centers, religious centers, just anywhere that's not going to cost you money, because that's one of the nice things about having a Young Living business is the very low overhead. So you don't want to invest all of this money in finding a place just to host classes. You could meet at a Panera Bread or a Starbucks. I know when Leah, around the time when I first got introduced to this business, Leah was actually hosting classes at a Big B Coffee. And I absolutely love that, because you could get, you know, you had the little snacks and everything like that, and the class was very laid back, and she didn't have to worry about doing any cleanup or anything else. So that's always an option too. I know that some were getting the room at the Rusty Bucket, because, you know, that's convenient. People can come and order food as they please, but it's just a centralized location for you to host a class. So you don't always have to use your home. You can, but realize that there's other free alternatives to this one. So just keep that in mind. That kind of leads me to our next one is I don't have the money to start this business. So I know Dana has touched on it before, but it's actually pretty interesting, because most people, when they start a business, you know, they invest hundreds of thousands of dollars just to start a business. I think a McDonald's is probably at least 75,000, if not more, just to get a fast food chain business. So it really boils down to, what do you want, and do you see the value of what you're getting? Because it's actually, I feel like the
the cost to get started in this business is actually too cheap. Because like I mentioned before, Dana and I have been in another network marketing company before, and I think we paid maybe 6 times as much as we paid to join Young Living. But for some reason, we were more successful in Young Living than we were in the other company. So don't treat it like a $160 business. Build the value. I know even when we're talking to individuals who want to get their kit, but they're like, I don't know if I want to part with $160. That just means we haven't built enough value, and they need more education.
And then too, there's so many ways or options, make suggestions like, maybe have like a garage sale or something like that to get some of the income, especially if you don't have necessarily extra. Or there's other options like the PayPal, you can make payments on it. So that's another low cost option to being able to afford and get that as well.
It really, your ER is how you support your own company and business. So of course that's $100, 100 PB per month to make sure that you get paid out on all your commissions, but just 50 to support your ER. When you think about that, the nice thing about it is you're getting products and stuff that you want. So it's not really a lot of money because you're getting things that you want. You don't have to store all this income and then store all this product and then worry about pushing the product and getting it on your home. You don't have to buy all of the product up front. The only thing to get started is the cost. So I know that in this day and age, it's a hard concept because most people want things now. But even if that person has to put aside $30 a week for the course of 5 or 6 weeks to get their kit, it's well worth it because you're getting more than just your course. You're getting a whole business that you can use to get people incentives and tickets and ownership. So it's really worth the investment. That's why don't allow someone to say, I don't think you need it. Let's find a way for you to get what you need to get the oils that you want, whether it's saving or now they have PayPal that they can extend a line of credit to as well. There's many options there. Let's talk about influence. So I know sometimes this is what holds people back as well. I don't have the influence. People don't listen to me. I'm just not that person that people gravitate to. And the reality is, if you're not that person, it really doesn't matter. Because either they like it or they don't. You can't say the right thing to the wrong person, and you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So don't worry about whether people gravitate to you or not. Whether people listen to you, and take your opinion as good. Don't worry about that. Because really in living, we have Provider 180, training and resources, has everything that we need to present this business in a professional way, in a way that people can resonate with. Either they get it or they don't. So your job is only to present the information to them and allow them to make a decision.
And when it comes to influence too, I think that it's so important to open our eyes to realize, because sometimes we might say, well, I don't really know that many people. And then we make a list and there's maybe 10 people or so. But if you really think about even the course of your day today, so like for me, I think of everything that I did everywhere I was today. Like even I was at Whole Foods today and a lady was in the aisle with all of the wellness products. And I'm not even thinking about her, not thinking about anything. And she just stops and she goes, your hair is so pretty. Do you know anything about probiotics? And I'm just like, that was super random. But hi, I'm Dana. I introduced myself and I said, well, actually, yes, I'm a strong advocate for probiotics. And I'm like, well, what probiotics have you tried? And therein started a conversation. I've never met this lady a day in my life, but I now have her phone number and she wants to come to a class. So again, you have to think beyond maybe the few people that pop in your head, because every single day in your course of life, you come across people. You just don't necessarily always remember or recognize. So in GoPro, Eric Worre talks about always have a working active list because you want to see how many people you can support and help. Especially this time of year, you're going to find people that are getting sick. They're going to be under the weather. They're not going to be feeling well. We have solutions and things for that. So our influence is a lot bigger than I think it is.
And that's why it's important to keep that list, a written list that you can add to talk to. This next one is one of my favorite ones because if anyone is like me, very busy people, we do both work separately as well as standing with church schools and children, and then we have other activities that we're involved in as well. So a lot of time, people will say, "I just don't have the time to do this. You know, I have a full plate already, and I can't add anything else to juggle." And that's understandable. I can empathize with that. But one of the things that Sarah talks about in the book is young living being your way out. And really, it's a small investment to make to get something called the time economy back, which is really means a lot to me personally. I know that my life deals in time energy. So if I know that I'm not going to have the energy to do it, so I see young living as giving me a lot of time to do some of the things that need to get done. Some of the things that I want to do. So it's a small investment, whether it be holding, even if you hosted 1 to 2 classes a month, that's only 2 hours all the time. Can you find 2 hours an entire month to host a class? I think I mentioned this before, but most people watch more than that on TV. You know, sometimes it's been on recreation. So it is a sacrifice, but sometimes it takes just sitting down and okay, what can I cut out temporarily while I build this to be able to get that time for it.
I did like in the book, Sarah said, look at your schedule, find 2 hours for a class each week and make it happen. Cut other things out to make it fit. Bring your kids with you if you have to. Sarah said for her, my oldest 4 have taught 206 classes faithfully by my side. As your team and your income grow, you'll be able to reevaluate other places where you can save yourself more time. It's about juggling. It's all a juggling act. So I do think that's very important. Sometimes you'll go through different seasons where sometimes it's a little more tight, and then there's sometimes when you'll have, again, that more time.
Yes. So, like Dana said, try to juggle some things around. See if you can squeeze a class in 1 to 2 classes. But only you know it's possible. The other excuse that she talks about is I don't want to sell stuff.
Me neither.
And, yeah, neither have I. I think because we get into business mode and it's like, okay, I need to make money. So, everything I do hinges on the person buying the kit. And the reality is that's not necessarily true. Because I'm going to tell you, 9 times out of 10, the person that you try to convince a kid to buy a kit that does not necessarily want it, and you sold them on it, is not going to purchase anything else down the road. They're not going to use their product, use their oils, so therefore they're not going to see the benefits anyway. So it's just giving you quick money up front, and then you're not going to see another dime from that person. So what I say is, and even Sarah talks about this, is learn to develop your story. And this is why your story is so important. If you're using your oils and your products every single day, every single month, you're going to have stories on how they've changed your life and how they've improved your health. So even when you're hosting a class or if someone's asking questions, don't feel like you have to sell them that this is some miracle cure. Essentially, you just want to tell them what they've been able to do for you. I know for Dana and I, a lot of things have changed in our family because we've gone completely chemical-free. We don't use any toxins in our household. So I know from the simple fact that my wife can walk around the house and breathe. That's part of our story. When someone asks, well, why should I get this kit? I know I'm sleeping better. That's one of the reasons. I tell people I just overall feel better, more energy. So when you're using your products, just tell your story. Don't worry about selling them and say, hey, if you act now, then I'll give you $20 off and you can save money. No one cares about it. People hate being sold. They want to know that you're genuine about what you are using and that you're actually seeing benefits, and that's what they care about. You're the walking test.
And again, focus on education, not selling oils. So if you are genuinely concerned about a person and you genuinely know you have things that can help that person, just focus on how you can educate them. The best thing to do is get them to classes, get them to events, get them where they're with other medical professionals, other people that have experienced it, and they're getting the education, because that's what's going to give them that foundation, and that's what's going to keep them doing their own research and being their own advocates for their own health.
So let's talk about what Sarah calls the one legitimate excuse, and this one actually does make sense. The one that I can't stand in front of people and teach a class. We're all different. Our personalities are very, very different. I know for even something like this, like being in front of the camera and doing a call has been a challenge for Dana. Dana has gradually gotten better at it. It's a challenge for me as well. I still think I suck at it, but we're doing it. Not necessarily saying that that has to be you. That's the beauty of owning your own business, is growing it in a way that's natural and organic for you. So I'll just give you an example that really stuck out to me, because I know I seem a little bit more extroverted. And so an introverted person may say, hey, I can't do this business because I can't get in front of the camera and talk. I can't get in front of the camera and talk. Notice this example of Myrna, who was on Sarah's team, because she was actually able to grow her team to 10,000 OGB a month. So she did the silver and 6, simply by mailing out an oil ability one-on-one DVD to her friends and doing great follow-up. So if you think about it, that's just, getting your list together with addresses and names, mailing out those CDs and say, hey, I sent you a CD or a DVD in the mail. Did you get it? Oh, yeah, I got it. Or, no, I didn't get it. Oh, okay, it's coming in the mail. When you get it, call me back, let me know what you thought about it. Or if you got it, hey, did you listen to it? Yeah, I listened to it. Well, what did you think? Did you enjoy it? What did you like about it? Really, if you can do 2 things, and that's introduction and follow-up, you're going to be great in this business. It doesn't matter how savvy or how confident you are about standing up in front of people. This woman literally grew her business to silver just by putting DVDs. That's amazing. And then you have your people that, like, this one is funny to me. A woman named Stephanie, she grew her business by handing out samples, but the way they phrased it is she literally tried to put oils on everybody. So anyone that she came across, she was a lot more extroverted. That was her personality. She's like, here, try this. You got to put this on. It smells great. It's going to make you feel better. And that's how she grew her business. Now, I know people like me who are more talkative. We are terrible at follow-up. But we have great introductions. So that's why I'm glad that I have Dana, because Dana's really good at follow-up to balance that out. So I say all that to say, find your niche, find whatever you're comfortable with.
Use your oils. Again, sometimes just because the way you smell is going to evoke people asking questions.
Yeah, you get that a lot. Even she gets like some unwanted attention just for wearing.
I said I think I'm gonna stop wearing abundance when I go grocery shopping, because I don't know. I just have people randomly start talking.
So find your niche. See whatever's comfortable for you. As long as you can do those 2 things, some website, giving them an oil DVD.
I have a mom because she getting ready to come over. That's why I put my coat on right now. So just being with he.
But very briefly, let's lastly talk about your greatest tool, and that's your regular virtual office. If you have not, take a chance to get familiar with your back office. Sign in, just kind of click around and see what you have available. I know there's new things that I'm always finding out as well. But you can look up things such as your rank qualification. What does it require to rank up? Living actually has a tool in the back office that helps you a new distributor trying to get you started. 500
trying to get with every female in the system. She got to be
all
faithful
of
to work that out. If she got any decency, she ain't gonna make that out.
Sometimes it's nice when you can get a visual and see how
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you
and then it's going to help you to understand,
Yeah.
the makeup of the company, how we get paid. You can look at your commissions.
Yeah.
Your organization, anyone that you've enrolled or that's in your organization.
we have the fund structure.
There's so much in there. Your essential rewards, your order history, your wallet. There's so much under there that you can kind of break down and look at. So let's say that if you want to so important to understand the difference between a quick order and a central rewards order. When you explain that to Brenda said she got her loyalty oil. Some of those things. If you're not getting all of that, you're not going to necessarily even redeeming. Some of those things you might have to walk through with people on how to do that, but that's why it's really important to play around. Take a day where you're just in there and playing around and trying to figure things out.
More specifically, the My Account button, because a lot of times people don't know that you can set up direct deposit. So whenever you can use it to set up that. If you want to check your ER order and track it, you can actually track it back there. They have member resources, so sometimes they put out news from the company. That's all there.
All the events.
Right. So, like I said, take time.
I don't want you to think, man. Spend the day.
The more comfortable that you are with what's back there, the easier
literally, if you're watching a TV or a movie.
At this point, we kind of have to start wrapping it up because he was telling me that our call is going too long. Really quickly, by the way, events for the week. We have the rally coming up. That's the big one on the 14th.
1 to 4. Be sure to get your tickets. And guests are free if they're not have a membership with Young Living right now. But you really, really want to share that and get as many people to those events as possible.
I'm going to tell you now, because we were talking about finding your niche a little bit earlier. Something like that is great for people that aren't comfortable with presenting. As long as you can get people there, get them in front of someone who's going to present for you, and then you just have to follow them. So you want to remember that. Like I said, get your tickets for the rally, and commit to bringing a certain amount of, or bringing a guest. If you can at least bring a guest. Each time that we do this, the numbers are growing. So that's what we're going to see. I might have to move to a new space probably for the next one. So we encourage all who can make it to be. I think that's it for tonight's call. Thank Brenda for joining us. And if, like always, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to get in contact with us. And until then, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye, guys. It's the first of the month, so let's go strong October.
You got it.
Bye.
Good night.